Minute with Ray Richardson.
One of the two teams in the NBA Finals will win their first NBA championship. The Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers are among 11 teams that have never won an NBA title. They meet up in the best-of-7 series beginning Thursday night. The first two games are in OKC. The other 9 teams that have not won an NBA championship, the Clippers, Minnesota, Utah, Sacramento, Memphis, New Orleans, Atlanta, Charlotte, and Brooklyn. The SWAC Conference football game this season on October 4th between Florida A&M and Mississippi Valley State has been moved from Itta Bena, Mississippi to Atlanta. The HBCU game will be played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home of the NFL Atlanta Falcons. Mercedes-Benz Stadium has a capacity of 71,000. There are more Florida A&M alumni in Atlanta than any other city in the country. Both teams are now expected to earn more money from the gate revenues after the venue change. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch until you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, D-R-N-I-I-Q, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way, you will surely never miss an episode. Now, listen, our KBLA Talk 1580 4th anniversary events are fast approaching, and seating at all 4 of our special events, it's getting tight. And so I want to encourage y'all to register, if you haven't already, at our KBLA1580.com website. And if not, let me encourage you to stop and do it right now. I want you to do it, but if you haven't done it, stop and do it right now. It's our 4th anniversary, and we really want to celebrate with you. And so if you're planning to join us for our 4th anniversary celebration and barbecue on the Juneteenth holiday, we're asking everyone to bring a food gift card of any amount for the victims of the Altadena fire. Grocery store chain or restaurant, we're grateful for whatever you bring to help families that are still displaced by the wildfire. So go to our KBLA1580.com website right now and sign up for the events that you plan to attend. All of our anniversary events are free, but seating is limited, and you got to register. And so thank you in advance for doing that. We cannot wait to see you and lift up our brothers and sisters and siblings that are still recovering from those wildfires. Now it's time for your National News Roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. A mighty, mighty, mighty ugly headline unfolding from this weekend. Here's what we know about the suspects and the victims of the Boulder, Colorado attacks. A man armed with a makeshift flamethrower and other incendiary devices launched a fiery attack on demonstrators in Colorado who were calling for the release of Israeli hostages in Gaza. 8 people were injured, and the FBI described the violence on Sunday as a targeted terror attack. The suspect, identified by the FBI as 45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Soliman, yelled, "Free Palestine." It's according to Mark Mishlek, who is the special agent in charge of the FBI's Denver field. Authorities believe that Soliman acted alone. Authorities said that the attacker targeted volunteers with Run for Their Lives, which organizes running and walking events to call for the immediate release of Israelis being held in Gaza. The hostages were captured by militants during an incursion in southern Israel in 2023 that precipitated the latest Israel-Hamas war. The group gathered on Sunday. They gathered at the Pearl Street Pedestrian Mall, a 4-block area in the downtown Boulder neighborhood that's frequented by tourists and students. Witnesses said that the suspects first used the flamethrower and then threw 2 Molotov cocktails into the crowd. Solomon was arrested at the scene. Terrible events in Boulder, and we'll continue to keep you updated as more information becomes available. Moving along in other news, DOGE. They vowed to make government more efficient, but doing the opposite. New procedures and requirements are slowing down our federal agencies. They're not speeding them up. I don't care what folks say. You got to look at what is actually happening. The Washington Post is reporting that somewhere in the world last month, State Department employees began the routine process of hiring a vendor for an upcoming embassy event, but quickly ran into problems. The vendor was refusing to sign paperwork, certifying that it did not promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, a new requirement under the Trump executive order eradicating DEI from the government. The state employee who spoke on conditions of anonymity, said that the workaround would take some time. First, he got his ambassador's signed approval to hire the vendor anyway. Next, he filled out an Office 365 form justifying the expense in 250 words before selecting which pillar of necessary spending it fell under, choosing from options including safe, stronger, more prosperous. And after submitting that to higher-ups and getting their sign-off, he filled out yet another form, this one destined for political appointees back in Washington. And a week later, the vendor was secured. Under any previous administration, it would have taken 1 day. So what does this say? It says that the work of DOGE isn't as effective as they say it is. And it may be more tough talk than anything else. And so kudos to the folks out there in the federal government getting crafty about, hiring vendors that are there to create some benefit to the American taxpayers, to the American people. They're making things so difficult. When it comes, especially to some of the most mundane tasks of our government. Oh, I know why we're making it difficult. It's because some people believe that anything related to diversity, equity, inclusion is inherently wrong. Sometimes it ain't that deep. For some of these vendors, it's not that deep. But, you can show them better than you can tell them. And kudos to the federal worker that is pressing on no matter what. In other news, the Supreme Court won't review bans on assault-style weapons and high-capacity magazines. The Supreme Court just today preserved Maryland's ban on assault-style weapons and Rhode Island's ban on high-capacity magazines, declining for now to decide if they meet the High Court's controversial bar for gun restrictions. While that's a victory for gun control advocates, as reported by USA Today, it came over the objections of several conservative justices. The issue could come back to the High Court, but it's worth noting that Justice Kavanaugh noted that the challenges to other bans on assault-style weapons are being considered in lower courts. And in his view, the Supreme Court presumably will address the AR-15 issue soon. And so there are lots of gun issues that are coming up before the court in this round, if you will. Gun control advocates found that they basically got a favorable decision, but it's worth noting that we need to pay extra close attention to these issues because when you look at gun violence in this country and communities that are disproportionately impacted, Black folks are one of those communities. And so we should be paying extra close attention to how the Supreme Court rules on this, because it literally will translate into our safety and well-being in community. When we come forward, we are switching gears. Speaking of community, it's always a good day to check in on with folks who are leaders on the front lines. One such leader will be joining us. I am delighted to be in conversation with Michael T. Bland. He is the executive director of Black Men Vote. He's going to be giving us an update on that work, sharing their mission and vision, and also weighing in on some of the biggest headlines related to Black men leading in government. And we'll dissect the TikTok trend of Black men calling other Black men saying good night. Have you heard of this trend? Are you familiar with this trend? If not, we're going to tell you all about it and talk about that as well. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Michael T. Bland of Black Men Vote when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431. 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431. 800-868-6431 and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
Hit me! National News The Consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and thrilled to welcome to the show for his first time, Michael Bland. He's the executive director of Black Men Vote. For those of you who may be familiar with his work, or less familiar, I should say, Michael recently served as the Southern Regional Director and Senior Advisor for Faith Engagement on the Harris presidential campaign. He's done a lot of work in the space, including serving as National Director of Leaders of Color at Education Reform Now, where he scaled a national program that trained over 400 fellows and supported the election and appointment of nearly 100 Black and Brown leaders. He knows what he's doing, and let me tell you, the nation needs him more now than ever. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Hey, good morning, Doc. Thank you so much. So happy to be here, man.
Well, so happy to have you here. I want to give you a chance to share with us the mission of Black Men Vote. We know that coming off of the 2024 election cycle, there are lots of conversations, many of them belated, but lots of conversations around Black men and why are some Black men so Trumpy. We'll get into the data of all that in a little bit, but lay out the mission and vision of Black Men Vote coming off of that 2024 election campaign.
Well, Doc, thank you again. And what an important conversation we're going to have. Look, Black Men Vote, we want to take Black men from the margins to the center. I think for far, far, far too long, we've been left out of the conversation. Thank you for reading a brief bio. But I've been doing this thing for nearly 20 years. And I've been around it all my life. One of the things that I just haven't seen, whether it be focus groups, whether it be polling, whether it just be any kind of statistical data, is Black men showing up literally in the margins. And so our goal is to take black men, move them from the margins and move them to the center. And I don't mean that from a demographic standpoint. I mean, we want more civic participation. We want to be able to hold our public officials accountable. We want to be able to be that one-stop shop for black men. Look, our white sisters have Emily's List. Our sisters, our black sisters have Higher Heights. So when a brother's running for office, where does he go? Who does he call? How do I do this thing running for city council or running for mayor? That is where Black Men Vote want to thrive. In addition to that, not only just through our massive voter registration efforts that they have done even before I've even gotten here, but look, we've got to go from registering to vote to turn out in the vote. And then once we turn out the vote, we have to hold our public leaders accountable. I think that's the biggest margin. I think that's something that we haven't done in a long time. And I think, quite frankly, that's why we've seen a lot of our public officials fail. They give great campaign speeches, rah-rah speeches. And at the end of the day, nobody's there to hold them accountable. Nobody's there to hold them up. So if we're talking about, public labor agreements, if we're talking about entrepreneurship, if we're talking about apprenticeships, and it gets proposed at a city council level or a city ordinance or even state legislation, oftentimes there's nobody there to support it. So, black men, we are a big moving block. We are a voting block, and we care. We care about the same issues that the sister down the street that is worried about how much eggs cost or milk costs. We care about childcare. I'm someone who has a thriving 2-year-old, and I'm looking like, wow, daycare is a lot of money. Then I have twin girls that are 16 getting ready to go to college in 2 years, and so a higher ed affordability. So these are the same issues that they talk about, on the news every day. But these are issues that we talk at our kitchen table about every day as well, Doc.
I mean, I think you laid that out beautifully. And, I think sometimes people look at black men like we are aliens, as if we don't live in the same communities as everybody else, as if it's not just about making ends meet, but how do we grow the pie? And one of the things I remember so well off of the 2024 election cycle is that, Vice President Harris had a whole plan called the Opportunity Agenda for Black Men. Talk to us about how rare it is to see a candidate running for president that's articulating a specific agenda for Black men that was developed by a policy leader that is a Black man, with other Black men pouring into it. Talk to us about that moment, because I think a lot of folks might have missed that moment. But just because VP Harris is not President Harris enacting that agenda, it doesn't mean that it's still not our agenda.
Absolutely. And if nothing else, Vice President Harris and the campaign team, they gave us something to build off. Got a foundation. And I'll tell you, and I said it before, oftentimes we don't see ourselves even in campaigns. We don't see ourselves in policy. So to see that somebody made some type of effort, and it may not have been perfect because people said, well, it wasn't enough. And we get the same thing in recidivism and just there could have been more, right? There could be more in everything. But the fact that we showed up and somebody was willing to have a conversation. Like I say all the time, we have to go where we are. And particularly at Black Men Vote, and it almost lockstep with the Harris campaign, is we got to go beyond the barbershop. That's one of the things I say all the time. Look, the barbershop is not what it was since COVID. I know you're bald, brother, but at one point you had hair and you still get that beard shaped up.
Look, this beard's got to get together.
That's right. It's got to get together. but we used that if you got there at 9, you didn't get out till 12, or you didn't get out till 1 o'clock. And so when I think about, the old barbershop style, that's gone, right? Now we make an appointment, we get in and we get out. We have to go where we are to continue, like, what is really making us tick? I had the opportunity last week to go to the Black Building Trades convention. And there was brother to brother talk. And I don't want to talk too much about it because it was a sacred moment. And there was some things that were left very personal. We're going to keep there. But one of the things that we don't talk about enough, and that was brought up on the Harris campaign, was mental health. If you heard how many brothers talked about mental health and what that looks like, and what that support looks like, I think the next candidate who runs for president or the next person who's going to be our Senate majority leader or our House leader need to understand, like, those are some of the issues that Black men are facing every day. right? And it's not just, hey, we have to talk about marijuana and how do we expunge records? No, we want how do we make this into a thriving business? Mm-hmm. What do we do for the brothers who have a 12-year gap on their resume? How do we get them back in the workforce? So I think it was a good foundation, but it's our job at Black Men Vote, and quite frankly, other groups like ourselves to build on that, and hold our future elected officials accountable.
And so, speaking of future elected officials, one of the elected officials that made the political comeback of a lifetime, talking about Donald Trump. There is a lot of talk about the role that Black men may or may not have played in that extraordinary comeback to the White House. Sac State, California State University, Sacramento professor did a new study that came out this spring that found that Black men did not move from the Democratic Party to Trump, as has been sort of talked about and reported on. According to their study, support for Kamala Harris among Black men, it increased 24% over time. That's what their survey found. And so over time means from April 2024 to the post-election wave. She went from 58% to 82% support around from Black men. I can't think of another candidate that has had that kind of story related to Black male voters.
Look, we've heard so much, and whether it be rumors or fly on the wall, and everybody has. I like to say they wanted to frame the emergency on democracy, the scapegoat. To me, they wanted to frame it on Black men. If this thing went bad, whose fault it was? It was Black men. But in fact, it wasn't our fault. And what's not talked about is the second biggest voting bloc for the Democratic Party, if you will, is who? Black men. And that's still without any kind of platform. That's still without any kind of representation. That's still without any kind of real leadership talking about our issues. So this thing that Black men left and went to Donald Trump, it's not true. But, here's what I will say, Doc. It's a great reality and pulse check for us as well, right? If it's such an issue, why have not, how come we haven't talked about it since? And, there are enough people we could have this conversation with, but I think we're beyond conversation. Let's start putting real policy together to codify a real working group that can get things done for Black men in America. I say this to my friends all the time, and I just pointed to it. We have the same issues that every other group has, but it just sounds different. And in fact, this thing called democracy, this process of voting, can be intimidating. And we don't talk about how hard it is in America to vote if you're a Black man, right? For example, in some places in rural North Carolina, it can take you up to almost 20 miles to get a vote ID or to get ID. Brothers that are returning citizens don't know if they're on probation or parole that they can vote. In some states, if you're incarcerated, you still can vote. We're just not educated enough on the issues, on the process of voting, if you will, and the outcomes of voting. I say we talk about our judicial system, Doc, and people don't know in our judicial system, when you register to vote, it also puts you in the pool to serve in the jury of your peers. How many lives could we have now saved? So there are so many advantages to, at the very least, registering to vote. And I tell everybody, listen, I would love to sit on a jury. Put me there 2 times a week in 6 different states, 6 different counties. I would do it. But there's so many opportunities that if we're not a part of the game, we're a piece that's being played.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you brought up, jury service. I don't know a lot of people who love it, who like you were going to say, sign me up in 6 different states. But it is a part of the lifeblood of our democracy.
Sure.
And we know that things change when our people sit on on juries. There is a context that we bring. There are lenses that we bring. There's a sense of compassion that we bring. And so, you can't channel that if you're not registered to vote, right? And I don't think we talk enough about how those demonstrations of service hold hands. But back to the numbers from this survey that was released this spring by a professor at California State University, Sacramento. Most Black voters, 57%, voted in person. right? And so when we see these attacks on voting, when we see these voter suppression efforts, right, we know that they work the best, particularly on election day.
That's
right.
right. That's right. That's right. And it's one thing I love about, us as a black man, no matter what, I still think, I go back to study the road we cross. We know the importance of voting. And I say this to the younger generation when they'll see that voting works, that voting is a mechanism of economic power. Those are conversations that we don't have, that we don't talk about enough, particularly in our inner cities. And what that means if we elect people, maybe they're not, I don't say they have to look like us all the time, but we have to start having the same economic conversations, right? So I'm voting for you. What does that mean? Does that mean, we can raise there were brothers and sisters who now can get contracts on different city levels, right? Whether it be janitorial services, whether it be food services, whether it be daycare vendors, right? That is all in the power of voting. When you have the wrong person in office, you lose those opportunities. And so to go back to your point, not only do we show up and vote, we show out. And I think we've stood up for a party that oftentimes we may not agree with, or we may not align. I think oftentimes I even say for our agenda, I wasn't, I love our agenda, but I think we can go more, we can go deeper. And it's not about a black issue or a white issue. It's about American issue. It's not about a humanitarian issue, right? I like to often say, black men are Americans too. I care about America just like the brother who has a Trump flag on the back of a 4x4 Jeep Wrangler, and maybe sometimes more than him, right? Because we know the sacrifices at the very least what it took to, not only, be a citizen here, to be a voting citizen here, to be a formidable member in society. So, voting is not, just something that we take for granted, or this theory that we have to get rid of early voting, or we have to we go vote. And I think we need to start putting it, I think we have an opportunity, although we're upset, to channel that fear and put into something better for this country.
I mean, I think you raise a really important point about our history in this country. We're a people that were once upon a time considered 3/5 of a person under the law. Yeah. And so, in a few generations, to go from being 3/5 of a person to being a full person under the law, but still having to fight to make sure that the law doesn't retreat from that, right? That's what we're talking about. So when people are out there hollering, "Make America Great Again," right? We said, wait a minute, the history? You starting the clock at yesterday? Right?
Absolutely.
And speaking of the clock is running out for a lot of folks in this country who may be undocumented, whose visas might have expired. One of the insights from this study from this professor over at Cal State University, Sacramento, they found that the majority of Black voters actually disapprove of mass deportations, but I can't tell. You look at a lot of the news coverage about mass deportations and about just the issues around immigration in general. You get the sense, reading the news, watching the news, that Black America says that's not our issue, right? They should have voted differently, right? That is not bearing out in some of the research I'm looking at. Again, the majority of Black voters disapprove of mass deportation. How is this issue showing up in your work among Black men?
I think that, that there are a couple ways to look at this. I think one, I think some folks are still bitter about the election. And as exit polls came out, they started to point the finger and make the blame game. Well, it was white women again. It was Latinos again. It was this group. It was that group. And so I think, we have to recognize that and we have to reconcile with that. But I would say particularly around Black men, and let's be honest, we have so much going on. I'm not sure if we see that every single day, right? That's not the thing that's in front of us. I go back to a report that I read not too long ago where it said the fathers that are most active in their children's lives are Black fathers. What does that tell you? That tells you that we give a damn, right? We care about what's going on in our community. We care about what's going on with our children. And so when we see that, we know it's not right because we do recognize it's them today. It could be us tomorrow. Right. And that's the constant conversation. Now, we may not look like them or we may not speak the same language at times, but I think that we know that there's a humanitarian sense about Black men. There is an emotional accord when it comes to other people that we say, hold up, no, not on our watch. So I will tell you, conversations that I am having, I think, the first response is like, you know what? There's some groups who voted for that. Let them get what they have. I have heard that, Doc, but I would say the vast majority of brothers are saying that's not right, because it could be them today and it could be us tomorrow.
When we come forward, want to talk to Michael about the tale of two Black male leaders when it comes to the issue of immigration. The New York Times reporting that $105 million reparations package for Tulsa race massacre was unveiled by their mayor. But you might remember a little over a week ago, Maryland Governor Wes Moore vetoed a bill to study reparations. We're going to get Michael Bland's take on that. We'll also really dig a little bit deeper to understand what this means about kind of leadership we can or should expect from Black men in positions of power on the issue. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with the executive director of Black Men Vote when we come forward.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is celebrating Illinois' seventh straight balanced budget, a $55 billion plan with new taxes on tobacco, vaping, and sports betting.
Unlike the federal government, we are balancing our budget for the benefit of your families, while Trump spends wildly to benefit his family and their Doge Bro friends.
He says it helps working families more than Trump-era federal cuts. 11 people were stabbed Sunday night at the Union Gospel Mission in Salem, Oregon. Police say the victims were taken to Salem Health with various injuries. A male suspect is in custody, but no motive has been released. And Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial resumes today in New York. His lawyers continue cross-examining a former assistant under the alias Mia, who says Combs raped and abused her. A man by the name of Enrique Santos is expected to testify next. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Enjoy a revolutionary shopping experience. Wild Fork Foods Meat and Seafood Market has unbelievable prices with impeccable quality. From farm to freezer, premium meats and seafood, everyday grocery staples, and meal solutions. Visit wildforkfoods.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
One of the two teams in the NBA Finals will win their first NBA championship. The Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers are among 11 teams that have never won an NBA title. They meet up in the best-of-7 series beginning Thursday night. The first two games are in OKC. The other 9 teams that have not won an NBA championship, the Clippers, Minnesota, Utah, Sacramento, Memphis, New Orleans, Atlanta, Charlotte, and Brooklyn. The SWAC Conference football game this season on October 4th between Florida A&M and Mississippi Valley State has been moved from Itta Bena, Mississippi to Atlanta. The HBCU game will be played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home of the NFL Atlanta Falcons. Mercedes-Benz Stadium has a capacity of 71,000. There are more Florida A&M alumni in Atlanta than any other city in the country. Both teams are now expected to earn more money from the gate revenues after the venue change. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Following the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. 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 Follow the leader.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
no warrant, no key, fly privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got right.
Hey, we all got right.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. Let's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and he is Michael Bland, the executive director of Black Men Vote. If you haven't heard about Black Men Vote, Google it. Google it, because Black Men Vote is on the move. He said two very important words moments ago while we were talking. He said working group. Working group. He also said we got to do more than just engage folks in the barbershop, because guess what? COVID-19 changed the game. The barbershop isn't quite the same. It isn't the same watering hole that we're used to. And so those are just some of the examples of how Michael Bland and the new team over at Black Men Vote are thinking about the critical work ahead to engage Black men across this country. Welcome back, Michael.
Thank you, Doctor.
And so before the break, I was talking about the mayor of Tulsa, who is making some big news. More than a century later, the city's mayor announced a $105 million reparations package just this past Sunday, the first large-scale plan committing funds to address the impact of the atrocity. What's so interesting about this is that the centerpiece of this project is the creation of the Greenwood Trust. It's a private charitable trust with the goal of securing $105 million in assets, including private contributions and property transfers and possible public funding by next spring, the 105th anniversary of the attack. Michael, what do you make of Mayor Monroe Nichols' approach to reparations? A lot of folks said not one public dollar. Don't you spend one public dollar to advance reparative justice. He said, okay, we're going to raise the money. What say you about this approach?
Man, first and foremost, I believe the brother's the first African-American mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So first and foremost, congratulations to him and his campaign. Secondly, look, I think he is the kind of innovative leader that we need around America, not just dedicated to any party. I think he thought about it different. You know, there's a phrase when I used to work with Congresswoman Johanna Hayes, we used to say it has to look different. And he's taken that opportunity for something, a cry that folks all across America, that African Americans have been saying since Reconstruction. You know, where's our piece of the pie? So we were given this promise by Abraham Lincoln, then it was taken back after his assassination. Where's our piece? And so we're seeing leaders take that take this as an opportunity to, right that wrong, if you will. So I'm very proud of the mayor, what he's doing, and the opportunities that's going to open up for other people in his city. He talked about scholarship, talked about public housing. This is something this is what this should look like. So just really proud of the mayor, what he's done, and looking forward to seeing how this shakes out.
Now, juxtapose Mayor Monroe Nichols' approach to reparations on the local level in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with Governor Westmore of Maryland. His approach on the state level, or there we say lack thereof, the nation's sole Black governor, he recently vetoed legislation that would have created a commission to study reparations. This ain't doling out checks. This isn't, any specific investments related to reparations. This was just the study of reparations. The state of California, my home state, where our home station is located, apologized last year for the discriminatory treatment of Black Americans and approved some reparations initiatives, but stopped short of financial restitution. And so talk to us about Governor Moore's leadership on this. A lot of folks inside the Beltway, at least, face has been real tight since Governor Moore vetoed this. A lot of folks suspecting that he did it because he may have presidential ambitions and didn't want this to get in the way. What say you?
Look, I think, first and foremost, I think Governor Westmore is doing a phenomenal job in Maryland. And it goes back to say, we won't agree with everything. And I think he has a great opportunity. I think one of the things that he did say was he's willing to look at another study or look at it being brought back to the legislature in some kind of shape or fashion. I think that if we're being honest, as Americans, we all have to look to about what is right and how do we right our wrongs. I think Governor Westmore could have taken a different stance or probably could have been more, a little bit more pronounced on why he didn't do it. But the reality is, I believe when he gets another opportunity or another chance to fix this study, if you will, or pay to get the study done, that he will do that, regardless of whether he runs for president or not, or if he thinks he should run for president, or this may have some kind of impact. The reality is this is something that Black Americans across the country, that they're looking for, that they want to hear from their Black elected officials, that they're saying, hey, this is part of you. This is part of our DNA. You have an opportunity to right this wrong. So, one thing I do believe is that Governor Moore will get it right, and that the legislature and the folks in Maryland will hold him accountable for it.
Just as a follow-up to that, Governor Moore is the only sitting Black governor in the United States. Should he have given this reparations bill more consideration, given the weight of being the only sitting Black governor in the United States in a time such as this? Did he miss an opportunity to offer this country and the world a demonstration of what it can look like to support reparative justice more broadly?
It almost, what this reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of the Obama years when we say, President Obama could have done so much more, in particular for the Black community. It reminds me when we say, he appointed, or he had an opportunity to appoint 3 Supreme Court justices, and none of them were African American. It reminds me that there are things that he could have did or could have done more for his home state of Illinois, more specifically, the gun issue, if you will, in Chicago. They're not always going to get it right. And I'm not, scapegoating this. I'm not sugarcoating this. I think our elected officials aren't going to get it right. But what I do want to level set is that Governor Westmore has an opportunity to get it right. He has an opportunity to go back to his legislature, say, bring me back another bill that we can, whether it be a study or whether it be, a case to say we need reparations. I think he has an opportunity to do that. And I think it's only fair to the people of Maryland and Black Americans across the country alike that, quite frankly, are depending on him to do that. So do I think he missed a moment? Maybe. Do I think he has an opportunity to set the record straight? Absolutely. And I think it just can't be, hot air. I think he has to take this opportunity and see for what he is, because there is a reality that he may miss a block because of this, right? Coming into, if he, does want to run for president, or there could be people in Baltimore or, generations in Eastern Shore, Maryland, right? The folks that live over on Douglas Beach that could say, hey, you know what? We've been here for a while, and now, first time ever we have a black governor, and you could look at this differently. So I think he has an opportunity to do something different for his state and be a leader and spearhead some kind of movement nationally for us as well.
And switching gears, talking about a national movement, at least a movement of sorts on TikTok, the funniest viral videos of grown black men calling their grown black male friends to tell them good night. I don't know if you've been watching, Michael, but I've seen this pop up on my feed quite a bit. And some of the responses have been outright, hilarious. But aside from sort of, the funnier TikToks that we've seen, what does this viral movement, what does it say about the sort of psychology of black men in relationship to other black men? Like you, I have a lot of, black men that are, close friends, road dogs, ride or die. And, our relationships, generally speaking, I mean, there's a tenderness there, and there's no issue there.
Sure.
But with some men, they were outright offended by their male friends calling to say good night. What does it say about the social psychology of black men in relation to other black men?
You know what? I'm only laughing because we do this. There are certain things we say in group chats and we laugh and we joke about. I'm like, we're too old to say that. We're too old to do that. I will say there's a moment of love is missing, and we're not taught how to love. I think we're taught how to financially show love as black men, right? If we go to court somebody, it's all about how we could, financially reel them in. Or if we want to support our children, we show them how much we could buy them, how many pairs of sneakers we could buy them, and how much clothes and value there. I think this is a moment as men, particularly black men, we got to say there's nothing wrong with saying I love you. And it's something that I intentionally do when my boys, we go out the phone, we say I love you. And, I can remember when we first started doing it, even my daughters were shocked. Like, well, you tell another man I love you? Yeah. I am. I'm telling another man I love you. But it is funny, another brother calling him, hey man, I just want to say, I'm laughing now, but just but you know what, we can be you can be masculine and you can also be loving at the same time. You can show him it's okay to show emotion, or it's okay to just be a person, man. But it shows that we have to, at the very least, we've got to love on each other differently. And I would say, I think that's one of the things if I may, Doc, the biggest disconnect from our sisters and our brothers. Our sisters, man, that black girl magic is real. They get out there, they support each other. They support each other in the workforce. They support each other financially. Sisters are doing something. You'll have 100 of them show up to a book club. Doc, you write a book. I'm not sure if you can get 50 brothers to come out if you're not offering beers and lobster, right? We've got to just show up differently for each other. And I think we have to do that. Even now, when we're seeing, we have an opportunity to shape our young black men when they have this in their face 24/7. And not this, they have another device in their face, and they're not teaching them how to love. They're not teaching them that it's okay to say good night. It's okay to check on your brother when he gets off a plane. Hey man, just checking to make sure you made it safe. Because although it's oftentimes used as a joke, but it really is a blessing to come home every night. And so that's the things, just don't share your location with your girl, man. It's okay to share your location with your best friend as well.
No, I think that's spot on. And I think over time, I think it's on our generation and future generations to widen the lens in terms of how we see masculinity, how we practice masculinity, how we demonstrate masculinity. And to tell another man, I love you, it doesn't mean that that's a romantic love. By the way, there would be nothing wrong with that. Let me just be on the record saying that. But I think that's a part of the discomfort that some, black men and men at large experience, is that, to have another man demonstrate a level of tenderness, of vulnerability to you, makes you feel uncomfortable, right? And you're like, wait a minute, what's about to happen, right? And so we're going to keep this conversation going. I am so proud of you and so proud of the work that you're leading at Black Men Vote. We absolutely will have you back again very soon.
Thank you so much, Doc. I really enjoyed our time together, man, and looking forward to be back with you.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm LA City Councilman Curran Price, inviting you to join us on Saturday, June the 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. as we cut the ribbon on the brand new Enel Woods Park at 8703 South McKinley Avenue. Thanks to a generous donation from Heal the Bay, the park features smart irrigation, stormwater capture systems, and space for local wildlife to thrive. And we've built a walking trail, picnic areas, native landscaping, and quiet spaces for families to gather, relax, and connect. This is part of a much larger effort to expand green spaces across South LA with 3 new parks in the works, a first-of-its-kind community center coming soon, and plans to connect it all through the South LA Greenway. So mark your calendar for Saturday, June 14th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and come celebrate a greener, stronger South LA at Enel Woods Park. I'm also pleased to sponsor the Climate Justice plus Black Health Symposium, moderated by Tavis Smiley, live on C-SPAN, Wednesday, June the 18th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Just a reminder to sign up right away at the KBLA1580.com website to join me, Mayor Karen Bass, Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager Dove, Tennessee State Representative Justin Pearson, Dr. Cornel West, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., the Sierra Club's Ben Jealous, and other Black influencers in the climate and health fields as we continue to amplify the connection between climate and poor health outcomes for our people. Thank you for listening. I'm Councilman Curran Price.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, also known as AD, a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior, making everyday tasks challenging. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? There are things you can do to help reduce your risk for developing AD. Managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure is crucial. Staying physically active, maintaining social connections, eating a healthy diet, and keeping your mind engaged with activities like reading or puzzles can all contribute to brain health. It's also important to recognize some common signs and symptoms of early AD, such as forgetfulness that causes problems with everyday life, asking the same question a few times in a row, and difficulty concentrating on basic tasks. If you see these signs in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatallzearly.com. That's treatallzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds. Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and it's time for the quiet part out loud. Let me just say happy Pride Month to everyone out there across the country and around the world. This is a special time of year. But here in our nation's capital, it's even more special because it's also World Pride. You have LGBTQ folks from across the country and around the world, also allies that are gathering here for a series of events celebrating LGBTQ rights, celebrating freedom, celebrating human rights, celebrating those things that I'm sure we all can get on board with, or at least should. I saw this piece in the Washington Post, and it was worth amplifying. The headline reads, "These 7 iconic places in D.C. are key to gay history and LGBTQ rights." And so for folks who aren't as steeped in LGBTQ history and the fight for freedom, I want to encourage you to check out this article. It's really great. It's historically accurate. And there's one particular story here that I want to underscore. There's a section on gay clubs. And in the article, they remind us that Washington was a buttoned up bureaucrat's world during the early days, shall we say. At night, the scene was vibrant, and at least 200 LGBTQ clubs have operated over the past 100 years in DC. The Rainbow History Project, an organization that has amassed a thorough history of LGBTQ DC history, plotted the often segregated clubs on its mapping archive. The Chicken Hut, that used to be the hotspot for gay white Washington in the 1950s, a block away from the White House. It operated from 1948 until the 1970s, hosting drag shows and piano tunes. But for queer, Black Washington, discrimination was twofold. The government was actively hunting homosexual men and women in workplaces, bars, and parks at a time when racial discrimination was still codified by federal law. In 1953, a row house on Kenyon Street in Northwest DC, that's in Columbia Heights, became a word-of-mouth house party and sanctuary for gay Black men. It opened its doors wide to the public in 1957 as a club called Nob Hill. When it closed in 2004, it was acknowledged as one of the longest operating LGBTQ bars in the nation. But nothing bumped like the Clubhouse in the 1970s, inspired by New York City's Loft and Studio 54. It was the epicenter of Chocolate City's gay nightlife, tucked in a residential neighborhood near a high school. At the time, Black people got hassled getting into white clubs. You needed 2 or 3 IDs and all that stuff. That's what we heard from folks who lived through that era. And now things are a little bit different. Now we have Black bars and Black LGBTQ affirming spaces where we can gather, even in a time such as this. And so I continue to say that I think the surest way that we get to the other side of what we are up against as individuals, as a community, is in community, locking arms with one another, holding space along with each other and for one another. And so I thought that little bit of history as we begin this new Pride Month was worth sharing. Pass it on. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. That's where we're going to have to leave it. My thanks to our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, to our sound engineer, Andy, to our show producer, Faraji, and Art, and of course to each and every one of you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners. We love you. We appreciate you. We curate the show each and every day with you in mind. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have, but by all means, do something. I'm Nii-Quartelai. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is celebrating Illinois' 7th straight balanced budget, a $55 billion plan with new taxes on tobacco, vaping, and sports betting.
Unlike the federal government, we are balancing our budget for the benefit of your families, while Trump spends wildly to benefit his family and their Doge Bro friends.
He says it helps working families more than Trump-era federal cuts. 11 people were stabbed Sunday night at the Union Gospel Mission in Salem, Oregon. Police say the victims were taken to Salem Health with various injuries. A male suspect is in custody, but no motive has been released. And Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial resumes today in New York. His lawyers continue cross-examining a former assistant under the alias Mia, who says Combs raped and abused her. A man by the name of Enrique Santos is expected to testify next. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Hello, Southern California. Experience Wild Fork Foods Meat and Seafood Market and get unbelievable prices with impeccable quality. From farm to freezer, premium meats and seafood, everyday grocery staples, and meal solutions. Find a Southern California location at wildforkfoods.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
One of the two teams in the NBA Finals will win their first NBA championship. The Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers are among 11 teams that have never won an NBA title. They meet up in the best-of-7 series beginning Thursday night. The first two games are in OKC. The other 9 teams that have not won an NBA championship, the Clippers, Minnesota, Utah, Sacramento, Memphis, New Orleans, Atlanta, Charlotte, and Brooklyn. The SWAC Conference football game this season on October 4th between Florida A&M and Mississippi Valley State has been moved from Itta Bena, Mississippi to Atlanta. The HBCU game will be played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home of the NFL Atlanta Falcons. Mercedes-Benz Stadium has a capacity of 71,000. There are more Florida A&M alumni in Atlanta than any other city in the country. Both teams are now expected to earn more money from the gate revenues after the venue change. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I am your host and White House correspondent, Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy Monday. Listen, our KBLA Talk 1580 4th anniversary events are fast approaching, and seating at all of our special events, it's getting tight. Have you registered at our KBLA1580.com website? Well, if not, let me encourage you to stop and do it right now. It's our 4th anniversary, and we want to celebrate it with you. If you're planning to join us for our 4th anniversary celebration and barbecue on the Juneteenth holiday, we're asking everyone to bring a food gift card of any amount for the victims of the Altadena fire. Grocery store chains or restaurants, we're grateful for whatever you bring to help these families still displaced by the wildfires. So go to our KBLA1580.com website right now and sign up for the events you plan to attend. All of our anniversary events are free, but seating is limited. So you got to register a lot in advance. We can't wait to see you. Now it's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. That's right. It's time for our national news roundup, and kicking us off, this may come as a surprise. Disney layoffs, hundreds, have been cut in TV and film entertainment jobs. Deadline is reporting just this afternoon that there are major layoffs underway at the Walt Disney Company, with several hundred employees impacted globally. That's what Deadline has learned. The bulk of them are across divisions of Disney Entertainment, including marketing for both film and television, as well as television publicity, casting, and development. Also affected are Disney's corporate financial operations. According to sources, the size of the cuts on the film and TV side of Disney Entertainment is comparable. No teams are being eliminated. The majority of the Disney Entertainment television staffers are said to be based in Los Angeles. And Deadline has been on this. They'll continue to cover this, and we'll continue to amplify what they find. But no good news there for the folks over at Disney, at least the several hundred people who are being laid off. Perhaps it's some comfort to folks that these teams aren't being eliminated outright. But we know that the entertainment industry has a large footprint, particularly the Walt Disney Company in Los Angeles, where our home station is located. And so our thoughts are with the people who will be impacted and their families, right? That's not just number out of thin air. Each one of those numbers represents a person with obligations, with families, and surely no news that anybody wants to get. Certainly no news that folks want to be blindsided by. Moving along, Canadian wildfires are triggering air quality alerts across the United States. NBC News reporting that over 180 fires scattered across Canada are actively burning, with 91 burning out of control. The fires have burned over 3.7 million acres since the beginning of the year. And over the weekend, hazy skies could be seen over Minneapolis and Duluth. And an air quality alert was issued for all of Minnesota. That happened just today by the State Pollution Control Agency. We know that in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the National Weather Service warned residents that outdoor grills, chainsaws, and ATVs have the potential to throw a spark and ignite a dangerous and destructive fire. The haze from the Canadian wildfire smoke drifted all the way into the deep south of the U.S., with reports of a, quote, red sunrise in Charleston, South Carolina. It's important for folks to know that poor air quality, it means sensitive groups such as pregnant people, newborns, older adults, or those with respiratory or heart problems should limit their time outdoors. And so folks like the people in my family that have asthma should limit your time outdoors. The poor air quality will continue for Michigan, Minnesota, and South Carolina through tonight. So be careful out there. Finally, at least 20 Planned Parenthood clinics shutter amid the political turbulence. We saw this coming. We knew that Planned Parenthood, the future of Planned Parenthood, access to Planned Parenthood and all of its services was on the November ballot. And this is what is playing out. The Guardian reporting that at least 20 Planned Parenthood clinics across 7 states have shuttered since the start of the 2025 year. They have shuttered, or they have announced plans to close soon, closures that come amid immense financial and political turbulence for reproductive health. As the U.S. continues to grapple with the fallout from the end of Roe v. Wade, the Planned Parenthood Network, which operates nearly 600 clinics through a web of independent regional affiliates and is overseen by Planned Parenthood Federation of America, is facing a number of threats from the Trump administration. A Guardian analysis found that the Planned Parenthood closures have occurred or are in the works across 6 affiliates that maintain clinics in Illinois, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, Utah, and Vermont. And in late March, you might remember that the Trump administration suddenly froze tens of millions of dollars of funding for 9 Planned Parenthood affiliates, including at least 2 that have since closed clinics or are set to do so soon. The funding, which flowed from the Federal Family Planning Program, was used to provide services such as contraception, cancer screenings, and STI tests. It's just another reminder. A lot of folks think that Planned Parenthood, all they do is abortions. They actually do so much more than just abortions. Of course, access to abortion is a part of what they do. But what I worry about are the people in these communities that won't have access to any form of healthcare that is close, right? This means that folks are going to be more inconvenienced, that people are going to have to drive further in order to get the healthcare that they need, right? Think about how many times we may go to a doctor's appointment, in the middle of the workday, right? Or we may, go early in the morning to essentially start work late, go early in the morning, and think about how much more challenging that's going to be for so many of our fellow Americans, so many of our family members, our friends and neighbors. So our thoughts are with the folks in these communities where, quite frankly, I don't know if this is making their life any better. I would say that it's probably making their lives more difficult. And so the fact that you may not have access to healthcare near where you live for much longer, if at all, that on top of, the challenges that these tariffs are posing in terms of providing businesses with the economic certainty they need to invest and to grow. A lot of these challenges are manufactured. This didn't have to happen. This is the result of political pressure that people are feeling. And it's going to impact real people in a real way. When we come forward, we're digging even deeper into policy that is impacting real people in a real way. Alan Orr, immigration rights attorney, will join us to make it make sense. There's a lot of headlines that are swirling on the immigration front, including President Trump's proposed gold card visa as an immigration fast lane. Is it really an immigration fast lane, or is President Trump running a fast one on us? Alan Orr will explain when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
We have no permanent friends or permanent enemies. Only permanent interests as we effort to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and delighted to welcome back to the show Alan Orr, founder of Orr Immigration Law Firm. He is our guru. He is our expert on all things immigration, and thank goodness for him. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Thank you for having me.
And so, first things first, the president making more news on the immigration front. He had talked about this a little bit on the campaign trail, but now it's real. There's a $5 million gold card that's being offered to the rich. Basically, it's a fast lane for residency here in the United States. Alan, for folks who are less familiar, very high level, what's Trump up to now?
Nothing, right? It's all smoke and whistles because the president of the United States is not authorized to issue visas to individuals, which we saw before under the Obama administration with the DACA classification of individuals. So if an American president was able to, of their own right, just give a citizenship or some status to individuals, then that would happen. There are individual cases where people are paroled, but if he wants to have this gold card, it needs to go through Congress. So this conversation they're having about they have so many people who are already in the process, what they're in the process for, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe some sort of parole, but it will not be a green card. It definitely won't be permanent unless Congress passes a bill to make it permanent.
And, I don't know if your phone's been ringing. NPR reports that there are a lot of lawyers out there whose phones are ringing with wealthy foreigners who want in. They want to know more about how to score one of these gold cards, which is being thought of as a glorified green card that would allow them to live and work in the United States without going through any hassle or red tape. What's the likelihood that Trump will go through with this and Congress will do nothing to stop him?
Well, they have to worry about the next administration, and then they have to get to the courts. So that's a lot of money to pay to not get substantially someplace. And it's more than what's generally required right now by something called EB-5, which is an investment category that is already the law, where you can invest up to from anywhere from $900,000 to almost $1.5 million and get a green card, but you have to create 10 jobs, and there are other sort of things that go along with it. So it's a little bit more inclusive. I am not against the concept of potentially people investing in companies to get a green card. There's no crime in that. I mean, it increases the tax base, and in some places if it builds it, but we already have a system for that. Let's follow the system we have, let Congress modify that, and they want to up the amount, then up the amount. If they want to change the requirements, then change the requirements, but it must go through Congress first.
This is something that I think Trump has said that he projects that we might be able to raise something like $5 trillion. I think I saw that in an article, $5 trillion off of this. That sounds like fuzzy math to me. What does it sound like to you?
Yeah, it's definitely fuzzy math. It isn't something, everyone is familiar with an EB-5 project somewhere, right? The Hudson in New York City is one of the biggest EB-5 projects that we sort of know about. There are warehouses in California, stadiums in different places that are EB-5 investments that create jobs. Those numbers just don't pan out in a reasonable time frame. So if you talk about over 200 years, then okay, then maybe. But over the immediate span, those numbers just don't match up to that sort of spurring off. And more than that, what is the interest? Is it about getting money here, or where's that money going? How's that actually helping people? Because the concept of paying that much money for a visa, how is that money going to help the system? What is that money going to do? Exactly. We've seen other countries